Hello guys, what's going on? Michiel Dankmeijer here with a new tutorial for Blender, which is gonna be about GPU rendering in cycles. I'm gonna be telling you about GPU rendering, how to render with the GPU, and how not to render with your GPU. Okay, now go ahead and start Blender up, and you go to your file, and then you go load factory settings. Now you should have the exact same thing as me. You go ahead and press select the cube, and you press G and then Z. You position this cube a little bit better, and then you go to add object, and you add a pane. Go ahead and press G and then S, and you go and make that pane a little larger. Now if you press ins on your numpad, you go to your camera and you can see how it looks. Alright, now we're gonna go to user preferences, and we're gonna go to system, and you can see under system on the lower left side you can see compute device OpenCL or CUDA, and you go ahead and select this. OpenCL is for AMD cards and CUDA is basically for NVIDIA cards. Tahiti is the type of card that is being used. Tahiti means that it's R9 series. Alright, go ahead and close this. And now we have enabled GPU rendering and cycles. Now go ahead here on the top, you see Blender Renderer. Go ahead and select Cycles Render. You change your rendering engines to Cycles Path Tracer. Alright, now you go to your render properties on the right side, and you can see that there has been a menu that has appeared. Device, CPU. You go ahead and select that, and you go select GPU compute. If you have not this option, it means that your graphics card doesn't support GPU rendering in Blender. So you should check out what is going on if you need a newer card, or you need to install a newer version of Blender, something like that. Okay, now we have enabled Cycles Renderer and GPU rendering. Go ahead and select the cube again and go to your material properties. This basically this ball, this shiny ball, and you go ahead and use go to surface and then click use nodes. Then on the surface you click on diffuse BSDF and you select glossy. Color, change it to whatever color you would like to, and I'm gonna put a little bit roughness on it, like that. And okay, let's see how it looks. We have ourselves a glossy cube with a pane. Okay, you know what, this is fine. This is gonna be our test rendering environment, which is not really that complicated, but it's gonna be fine for now. So go ahead and hide this render view, press F11, or just go to render and show hide. As you can see, we have this cube here. Now I'm gonna tell you some general things about GPU rendering. Blender can since a while use GPUs to render stuff, which is awesome because GPUs have so much more capabilities in rendering complicated scenes than a CPU has. So it is it requires some other know-how about the GPU rendering than CPU. These are different things. With the CPU, it's whole other ball game to render things than a GPU will render. So go ahead and go to your scene render settings over here. This is basically the camera icon, and open up all these tabs you see here: metadata, freestyle sampling, volume sampling, light paths, motion blur. Why we're going to open these? Well, because they're fairly important to understand. I'm not going to talk about them all at the moment, but it is good that you open them up and see what is going on. Okay. Now we're gonna go to performance settings over here. What this means is threads, how many threads it's gonna use of your processor. I have an 8-core processor, it's gonna use 8 threads. Auto detection is enabled. Make sure that this is the right settings for you. So if you have a 4-core, it's gonna be, and 4 threads, it's gonna be using 4 threads. And if you have 16 threads, it's gonna be using 16 threads. Usually on auto detect, it's fine. And here you see tiles. This means how large the tiles is gonna be that is gonna be rendered, the rendering tiles. This is fairly important. This is what we're gonna be talking about in this video. And if you go here to dimensions and you see the resolution, this is the resolution of our render. At the moment we have a percentage scale for the render resolution set to 50%. You go ahead and change that to 100%. Go ahead and press render. Okay, we have rendered this image in 8 seconds. If you go look at the top left, we have rendered this frame 1 in 8.5 seconds. And that is I mean a lot of time for my graphics card R9, which has almost 2000 stream processors in it. So what do you have to understand about this? As a general rule of thumb, if you have a decently capable graphics card which is ready to render in Blender, and which means that has more than 1, 2, or 3 gigabytes of memory and a good amount of CUDA or OpenCL stream processors, rendering in small tiles is not a good idea, because the GPU is going to be focusing all its power on a single small tile, and it's going to take a lot longer to render than when it's going to focus on 1 or 2 larger tiles, and it's going to be using the exact same amount of power or less. So you can understand why this is important to understand. You saw that it took 8.5 seconds to render with 64 by 64 tiles, and we needed about 500 tiles to render this image, which is a lot. Basically the GPU is gonna spike to 99% or 80% 500 times in 8 seconds, 8.5 seconds. So do you want that? Well, not really, because I'm gonna show you something. If we type in 920 and we type in 540, 540 being the half of 1080, we're gonna be rendering 2 tiles horizontally. And let's see what's gonna happen. Now my R9 280 graphics card has rendered this image in 2 tiles, and it has taken the card 3.5 seconds, which is 4 seconds faster than the previous tiles being on 64 by 64. So we cut off about 4 seconds rendering time by doing the exact same thing. And that is what this video is all about, getting those tiles and making you understand the importance of the right and the balanced title settings, title size settings for your specific GPU. Of course, every system is different, so I am talking about a general sense of medium to high-end GPUs. but even GPUs that have been that are a little bit older will be able to do this in 1 or 2 tiles faster than smaller tiles. So it's really important to understand this. What is gonna happen if we render this with 960 on the X, and we'll keep the I the same. Go ahead and type here 960. 960 being half of 920, 1920p. So we're gonna be having how many tiles? 1, 2, 3, 4, all even. That is really important as well. You always want to use even tiles and split things through half, because otherwise it's gonna be unbalanced. Okay, let's see what's gonna happen. This took us in 1 tile. It took us in 2 tiles. It took us 350 seconds. Now we're gonna use 4 tiles. It actually went a little bit faster, which is interesting to see. But as you can see now, it has taken about the same time with 4 tiles. Okay, let's type in 920 1080p and render it with 1 single tile. We're almost at 3 seconds now. So I have used 1 tile to render this, and as you can see, what was the fastest and most efficient to render out? 1 single tile. So as a general rule of thumb, you always want to be using 1 or 2 tiles for your GPU rendering in cycles, unless you have a really good reason not to do that. For instance, a multiple GPU setup, so you have multiple GPUs rendering, or you're using render farms or other stuff, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking specifically about 1 or a couple more GPUs in your own system. And so yeah, we have used 1 tile and we are at 3 seconds. So that is the most optimized for this specific scene. You're gonna tell, well, MD, screw you, I'm just gonna render in 128, and you're full of crap. Okay, let's see what's happening then if we press render. This has already taken us 5 seconds, but also the GPU has spent way more power and energy than focusing on 1 big tile. So you can understand why this is very inefficient. And it is also quite dangerous, because you're using your GPU in a huge way, but it's not even needed. If I can explain that to you. So that is why you should always understand how GPU rendering works and how to put these tiles on the correct way. There are plugins that do this automatically. I know that there are plugins that do this automatically, but you know, the thing is with automatic things, that sometimes something bad can happen. So it is always smart to put things manually and making sure that your GPU can do it. Now, hopefully you guys understand a little bit more about GPU rendering. What I suggest that you guys do, if you are wondering, well, what is the right rendering tile size for my specific animation, go ahead and test it. Go ahead and test it. Test it with 364, like this. Doesn't really matter. You know, test it with that, and then you test it with a larger tile size, like you know, 920, and then 540. And we are still faster with 2 tiles than those 8 tiles. So you can see why bigger tiles are more efficient in GPU rendering cycles now. I hope you guys understand that. There are cases and exceptions, of course, but this is a general rule of thumb. You want to use large tiles on GPU, and if you're not using that, you are you're working inefficiently. You're gonna be spending much more time for your renders and animations. And let me know what you think about this tutorial. If it's too long, if it's too short, if maybe I did something not right. Let me know, and if I explained everything clear to you guys. So, in a nutshell, as a general rule of thumb, if you have a decent GPU that can render in Blender, you want to use larger tiles to render. Doesn't really matter from which side, bottom to top, top to bottom, left to right, because if you have one tile or two tiles, it's gonna start in the middle, because it's not gonna matter. You're just two tiles. Can you split this to 6 tiles? Yeah, sure you can. And I'm gonna tell you one more important thing. If you split this, for instance, to 460, let me think. It's gonna be having 6 tiles, if I am correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I'm not correct. 960, 480. You're actually training your math skills as well by doing Blender a lot. Anyway, so we divide 1920 by 4, and then we have 480. So we have 8 tiles here. If you are rendering long scenes and you have to render something for quite a lot of time, you can choose to render to split it in a little bit smaller tiles. Why? Well, fairly simple to answer that question. Your GPU is gonna be less spiking, so it's gonna be more the usage of the GPU is gonna be more balanced, because it's rendering smaller tiles, so it's gonna be using a little less power to do those tiles. So it's gonna be keeping a little more cooler. It's not gonna spike to 99% to do this whole tile in one render. No, it's gonna do those 8 tiles like I showed you guys. So that is gonna be more efficient if you do longer animations, and you are your primary worry is stability. You just want to come back home and your computer is still rendering out after 10 hours or 20 hours. I recommend you put in 2 tiles if you want to work balanced and you want to render your stuff out for long times and you are worrying about stability. I recommend 2 tiles or 4 tiles, 6 tiles. That will be fine. You don't need smaller tiles than that, and your GPU will not be not spiking as much. So for stability, you can go 2 tiles or 3 tiles, whatever you want. And if you are just worrying about speed and you need to have something done and something fast, it's not too many frames, you can render it out with 1 tile. If you have a multiple GPU system, you have 2 GPUs set up to render in Blender, not Crossfire, but you have multiple GPUs set up ready, then you should be rendering in 2 tiles, each tile for the GPU, or 4 tiles or 6 tiles. So you distribute the workload evenly for those GPUs. Okay, hopefully that is cleared out as well. So for stability and longer renders, you go ahead 2 tiles, 4 tiles, 6 tiles. And for fast, short renders on the GPU, go ahead and make 1 or 2 tiles. That's fine. I could keep on talking for hours and hours about all these settings and what they do, but I'm gonna leave that for other videos. And so you guys have a good impression about this, and you understand now this this aspect of Blender, and this is one of the most important aspects. Getting those tile sizes right, getting that balance in your rendering time and speed efficiency. This is gonna save you so much time and so much trouble, and it's gonna keep your GPU running for a couple years longer. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and go ahead and test out your settings, and hey, please put down your time in the comment section on how fast different titles render, and let me know. I am quite interested in reading you guys what you guys find out. Alright guys, take it easy, thanks for watching, leave your comments in the comment section and I'll be glad to answer them. And have a good night. Peace.